Hey guys, Alex Sutherland here, and today I am going to be showing you guys a flop solution from GTORangeBuilder and taking a look at how we can test, verify, and validate a flop solution, how I do so internally when I'm working through my development, and how hopefully you guys can do this on your own if you want to check our results. It's going to be a little less easy to test flop solutions than some of the stuff I showed in my epsilon equilibrium video series, talking about how to test river solutions and do some limited testing of turn solutions. This is mainly due to the fact that CREV, which is the program I recommend using if you want to do third-party validation of GTORangeBuilder's results, isn't really equipped to handle full game trees like GTORangeBuilder generates. It isn't equipped to handle different stuff happening on all sorts of different turn cards, then also on all sorts of different river cards. If you try and put that much data into CREV, it'll usually start crashing very quickly. So you have to do some extra work to kind of check various parts of the solution in isolation. The goal of this video is twofold. One is to kind of show you that testing process, because I want you guys to feel like you can 100% trust GTORangeBuilder's results. The other part of the goal is to kind of give you guys a sneak peek of the flop solution itself. Anyone with a GTORangeBuilder turn license will be able to fully browse and navigate the solution. I'll put it in the description of the video. I'll also put it on my blog, as well as links to all the CREV files that I use here. Now, in going through this analysis, I'm also going to be talking a bit about epsilon equilibrium, how approximate GTO solutions work, what it means to have a specific Nash distance. If you haven't already watched my epsilon equilibrium video series, there's 2 YouTube videos up. They're free. Go watch them. Come back and watch this. You'll get more out of it. Now, the final thing before I get into it that I want to mention is this is going to be the first bit of flop content. We're going to have a bunch more coming for you over the next few weeks. And probably in 1 to 2 weeks, I'll be releasing the first flop video solution pack, which is a new idea I have here, where I'm going to give you guys 5 flop solutions, 5 to 10 pre-computed flop solutions that are fully browsable in GTORangeBuilder. You can go look around at them, and that'll come combined with about an hour of expert video analysis from me, walking you through the solutions, telling you what parts I think are interesting, highlighting how I analyze them, how I would apply them to your actual games. And that'll kind of come bundled, pre-computed. You can buy it on GTORangeBuilder.com, and we're hoping to launch that all as part of our GTO Dojo, which we'll be upgrading within the next few weeks. So that's what we've got on our plate today. Let's get into it. The first thing I just want to talk about a little bit is really understanding the game tree, understanding what a flop solution means. If we look at this game tree we have here, this is a 3-bet pot in a hyper-turbo heads-up sit-and-go format. So the stacks at the start were 25 BBs. We've got a pot of 10 chips here. And, standard stuff. The 3-better can c-bet. He can jam, which in heads-up sit-and-goes is, somewhat common to do because it's only a 2x pot bet. He can also check. And then the hero can respond in a variety of standard ways. And all of these places where we call, we go see a turn. And so say we pick some specific turn, like the 4 of spades comes after a bet call. This is a new turn where this is basically like a turn solution. If you've browsed a GTORangeBuilder turn solution, the flop solution has thousands of these different turn solutions. And for each of these turn solutions, we can go pick another run-out card, like say the jack of spades, and browse that, and we get a river solution. And it turns out that there are thousands and thousands of these various river solutions that are all part of the game tree. And GTORangeBuilder will have a different strategy to play for all of them because it matters what happens in the past. The line where you went bet, call, the 4 of spades came, so then the jack of spades came, you intuitively should have a completely different strategy than the line where it went check, 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 and the 4 of diamonds and the jack of diamonds came. Those are completely different situations. You need a different strategy for them. So when you actually visualize, GTORangeBuilder is only showing you a small slice of the game tree at any given time. But if you actually visualize the full game tree here, it is enormous. And we can kind of get a measure of that using GTORangeBuilder's new tree builder here. We can see the number of nodes in the tree. Here we're looking at just the flop here, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, estimating 20 or 30 here. But there's 719,000 of them in the whole game tree. And this is actually a pretty small game tree. A lot of flop trees that we might want to look at will have a few million. So that gives you a scope of how big a solution is. In data, these are going to be gigabytes at least of data. And getting a solution of that format into CREV is actually going to be very difficult. So internally, we have lots of testing we do. We have all sorts of automated tests. GTORangeBuilder has about as much test code as actual code that's used to compute its solutions. So there's lots of automated tests, lots of what programmers call unit tests, where you test things at a specific function level. So if GTORangeBuilder has some function that's, what is the EV of a raise node? What is the EV of, raising here? We'll have code that makes up a variety of situations, checks the EV for all the hands of raising at that specific node. Then we'll have a different function that tests things at a call node. Those are called unit tests. We have all these kind of automated tests, but for you guys to be able to test things on your own and for kind of validating results with complete third-party programs, not using any of GTORangeBuilder's internal code, it actually is a bit hard to do because not many things can handle trees with millions of nodes the way GTORangeBuilder can. As we'll see, that's something CREV is not going to be able to do for us. So how do we actually go about checking a solution? This is a slice of the GTORangeBuilder solution loaded into CREV directly. And this is the slice I showed you originally. It is the line where the action goes bet call, and then the four of spades and the jack of spades comes out on the river. And if we look at this, you can see there's all these percentages of what to do with each specific hand here, and it's pretty enormous. What we did was we wrote I got some help from a friend who's good with AutoHotkey and knows a little bit more about CREV than I did, and he wrote a AutoHotkey script that actually simulates clicking the mouse to manually enter hand by hand this data into CREV. Because CREV solution files are in a proprietary format, the CREV author doesn't want to unlock that format. He wants to keep it secure. So the only way to actually get a lot of data into CREV in an automated fashion is actually to use something that simulates mouse clicks. Because anytime you're simulating mouse clicks, there are slight risks that you don't click. There's lag that prevents a click from being registered. It's hard to guarantee that you got every single frequency into CREV exactly right. So usually there'll be very tiny errors here in the translation process from GTORangeBuilder into CREV. But those are usually small enough that they don't matter much. This is a reasonable way to analyze things. And what we can do once we've kind of got this in here is we can do an EV run and see frequencies and stuff. And then what we can also do that is kind of the core check is recall, if you've watched my epsilon equilibrium distance videos, the definition of a Nash equilibrium is that if the hero plays his equilibrium strategy, his GTO strategy, the villain cannot gain any EV by switching from the strategy he's playing right now to maximally exploitative play. And then vice versa, when the villain plays his GTO strategy, the hero cannot gain EV by switching to maximally exploitative play from what he's playing now. So if we actually want to test that in CREV, what we've done here is we put in the GTORangeBuilder strategy. CREV can't do full maximally exploited play computations. It can't say for every possible turn card, for every possible river card, where you're playing different strategies, depending on those turn and river cards, what does a maximally exploitive line look like? You can't even load that full strategy tree into CREV. But what it can do is it can just compute maximally exploited play on the river. So we put in play from the flop, but we put in a specific turn card, a specific river card, CREV is only including those two things. And now, if we click max exploited play, what we can look at is it will only do that for the river, and we can see how this river EV changes. So our goal here is that this 15.76 number should change, not at all or very little when we do a maximally exploitive calculation. Obviously, if we're maximally exploited from the small blind, this number, the big blind's EV can't possibly go up. It can only go down. So our hope is that it stays the same or goes down just a bit. And when we're running this with this, fixed turn card, fixed river card, this is actually a calculation CREV can handle reasonably. You'll get a little bit of lag. If you try to run this, I have a very fast laptop, so mine does okay. If you download the CREV file and try and run it on your own computer, you might get some crashes, but it should usually work pretty smoothly. And wait for it. It'll settle around 15.75. So our EV went down by 0.01 chips. That's really close to 0. And if we go back here and look at the Nash distance GTORangeBuilder reported, its distance was 0.1 chips. So this was kind of built into our solution accuracy. Now, unfortunately, we can't directly compare the solution accuracy that GTORangeBuilder reports, which is its solution accuracy of the entire solution from the flop, to the solution accuracy that CREV might tell us for some specific river. And the reason for that is that if we think about a flop strategy, like I said before, it's what to do on every possible turn, every possible river. It's got, the 700,000 decision nodes to look at. And the accuracy is measured in EV. So say you have some giant game tree like this, and there's some specific river situation that comes up one time in 10,000, and your accuracy on that part of the tree is really bad. Say you sacrificed 10 chips. But your accuracy on the rest of the tree was perfect. You sacrificed 0 chips. There was no exploitability at all. The EV measurement from the perspective of the flop of your overall strategy accuracy would be very good. It would be 0 times, 0.99999 plus 10 times that 0.00001 where you made a big mistake. And your overall accuracy would be 10 divided by 10,000, which is going to be 1 over 1,000, which is, more accurate than the solution I showed here. So it would be theoretically possible to have a big mistake in some a big flaw in the strategy, a big inaccuracy in the strategy in some very specific isolated case, and then to be perfectly accurate elsewhere. It's also possible to have a Nash distance of 0.01 by being about that far off on every river. And that's much more likely to be the case. But you can't just directly look at a single river and say, oh, this river's distance was 0.02. GTORangeBuilder said its Nash distance was 0.01. That's outside the bounds. You have to actually average across all possible rivers, which CREV doesn't give us, a reasonable way to do. So unfortunately, we can't, 100% confirm the Nash distance. But if we get something, if we look at a couple river spots and we get something that very tightly matches the accuracy GTORangeBuilder claimed to have, that's certainly going to be encouraging. The other thing to keep in mind is that the translation process into CREV, like I said, can make very small errors. So there's some increase in solution error just through translating it into CREV. But anyway, that was one side of the maximally exploitive calc. What we would want to do then is we go back, undo that, and maximally exploit it from the big blind's perspective. And again, now his number can only go up. It was 15.76. Our hope is that it only goes up a tiny, tiny bit. And if we wait for it, there we go, it goes up to 15.77, and we're in business. So that is a verification that at least when we play the GTORB strategy on the flop, play it again on the turn, and then put that river scenario that results from that flop and turn play into CREV and verify it that we exactly match GTORangeBuilder's results. And it's not just the Nash distance that exactly matches here. If we undo that max exploitive calc and run an EV, we can actually match up some of the other numbers. So for example, let's just look at the frequencies. CREV thinks it's an 87.5 bet and a 64.8% call. if we go into this part of the tree, which is bet call, and 4 of spades, jack of spades, we see these exact frequencies match up, 87.5%, 64.8%. All the frequencies will match up, and we can also actually make sure that GTORangeBuilder computes the EV exactly right. The villain here is the big blind, and we have his EV as 6.26, but that's relative to the flop. CREV reports EV relative to the river on the river nodes. So to do the equivalent, you'd have to give the villain back the chips he put into the pot, his half of the pot. So the pot started at 10, and now it's 29, which means the villain put in 9.5. So we have to add back the villain's 9.5 to the 6.26 to present the data in the same way CREV does. And 9.5 plus 6.26 is, of course, 15.76. So, we get an exact match on our EV there. If we want to look at the EV for the hero after the villain bets, again, we need to add that 9.5. So 9.5 plus 3.22 is 12.72, which exactly matches CREV. So that's pretty good external validation. One quick caveat I want to mention that is an oddity of CREV that really confused me at first, and might confuse you guys as well, is if we look at these turn frequencies here, we have the hero calling 82.8%. And if we look at it in CREV, we have the hero calling 83.2%. And you might wonder why those frequencies don't match up when they match up perfectly on the river. And the reason is that if you mouse over the EV description here, they only show it on the flop, but it applies to the turn. You see this warning at the bottom, warning future board cards are known. It turns out in computing this frequency of calling on the turn, Card Runner's EV actually assumes that the jack of spades is going to come on the river, and thus that you can't hold any hands on the turn that contain the jack of spades, which is kind of to me, seems like a backwards way to think about things. I don't think about my call frequency on the turn as being related to knowing that the jack of spades is going to remove all those hands from my range on the river. But what you can do, if you don't want that, is you can delete the jack of spades here, leave the river blank, and this makes this strategy as a whole very silly. It says no matter what the river comes, play as though the jack of spades came. That's a ridiculous strategy, so this isn't a valid strategy to consider. But we can still do an EV run in Card Runner's EV and at least see that the turn frequencies now match. The EVs on the turn are now going to be useless because we're doing this, foolish strategy on most rivers where we're pretending the jack of spades came even when it didn't. But our frequencies now are going to be right. We're not going to be applying that jack of spades blocker to our turn range. And once we do that, we can see that the small blinds call frequency is down to 82.8, which matches GTORangeBuilder exactly. And of course, the same problem occurs on the turn here, or on the flop here. The hero's call frequency is going to be off here by a fair amount, 78.1 instead of 79.4. But if we delete this 4 here and do an EV run, CREV actually crashed when I tried to do that one, so I ran it, edited the video. The EV calc is done now. 78.1% was the call frequency we wanted, and that does match GTORangeBuilder exactly here. So we are in good shape. So what does all this mean? It means that we have definitely shown that if you use the ranges that GTORangeBuilder says are GTO on the flop and turn, its resulting river play is in fact GTO, and you guys can, look at this CREV file. You can make your own CREV files for other rivers and verify that. For a real world spot like this, you're not going to be able to do what I did in my Epsilon Equilibrium video series, where I used CREV's layer system to put in different turn cards and different river cards and kind of show that the whole game tree was GTO, because CREV just can't handle that much data. It'll start crashing. You won't be able to enter it all and you'll have a whole bunch of problems. So basically, we can be very confident that in this real-world situation, GTORangeBuilder's EVs are consistent. On the river, its play is provably GTO. On the flop and turn, you kind of have to trust it. With reduced ranges, simplified games, you can do what I did in my Epsilon Equilibrium video part 2, where we actually put in the different strategies on every possible river card and showed that the full turn solution was GTO. And then, reasons to think that those two things in conjunction are pretty compelling are that GTORangeBuilder's algorithm is recursive. It just starts at the root of the tree, where the start of the flop, and says, do this operation for all my children. So do this operation for, this node, and this node, and then it looks at each of those children and repeats, and so then it does this node, this node, this node, and just keeps going through the tree. It doesn't think about any specific part of the tree as special. So if it is properly solving small turn trees, all the river solutions are accurate on big flop trees. Reasonably compelling evidence. I'm not claiming it's 100% rock solid proof that GTORangeBuilder is actually giving you true GTO solutions that you can completely trust. So that wraps this up. I'm going to put the solution file in the comments. I will put the CREV file in the comments. I'll also put them both on my blog at blog.gtorangebuilder.com. If you have any questions, definitely ask them in the YouTube comments or tweet at me at GTORangeBuilder. I always answer quickly, or you can comment on the blog. And do keep your eyes out for our first flop video pack. I've already started working on it. I'm super excited about it, and I think it's going to be awesome. So thanks for watching, guys.